Hi, I'm Andre Bagdasarian.
I'm Noah Bassina.
I'm Michaela Vicente.
And I'm Cody Young.
And our product is a shock-absorbing cell phone case made of silicone that's embedded with the shear thickening fluid that we call CellShock.
Now, raise your hand if you own a cell phone. Now, raise your hand if you've ever dropped or damaged your phone, even though you had a case on. It's annoying, right? Well, this is a problem that can be easily solved. The phone case market is currently extremely large due to the fact that 95% of the U.S. population owns a cell phone, and the fact that people upgrade their phones every 2 to 3 years. Additionally, $4 billion is spent on cell phone repairs, and this contributes to a large market with lots of opportunity for our company. Cases like OtterBox are considered the current state of the art. These cases are thick and bulky and are unattractive, and let's be honest, who wants an unattractive phone or case? And although these cases are thick, they do not use any shock absorbance or STFs, which leads to not only the phone being damaged, but the case itself being damaged. And these price from $40 to $60.
So our product would consist of 2 layers of silicone and a shear thickening fluid that's embedded in between them. So the chart to your left shows a system or a current cell phone case that involves no STF by the blue line. Ours is represented by the red line, and as you can see, the amount of damage that was taken to the actual phone was significantly different when an STF was applied. And from our lab testing, we calculated that an additional 23% of energy was absorbed per 100 grams.
So currently, the cell phone case market is highly competitive as OtterBox, LifeProof, and Spec are dominating the market. However, we believe that with our shock-absorbing casing, we can compete with those companies. Our target customers would be manufacturing companies, commercial cell phone stores, case retail stores, and especially individual customers such as you guys going out to buy phone casings.
So the goal of our product is to make a case that absorbs shock efficiently so your phone is not damaged, but also remaining thin, attractive, and durable. We want it to be non-bulky compared to other competitors and also easy to use and take on and off. So we also hope that our product would expand into other markets. For example, we could use our casing for protecting medical devices such as insulin pumps, which are mobile with its users, which make it prone to damage.
So currently in our labs, we tested the shear thickening fluid made out of cornstarch and water. Cornstarch and water is the cheapest alternative for a shear thickening fluid. However, the properties of a shear thickening fluid rely mostly on the particle size, distribution, and shape. A shear thickening fluid is a non-Newtonian fluid, meaning that the liquid's flow relies mostly on the stress applied onto the liquid. On impact, the energy is dispersed evenly throughout the liquid rather than letting it enter your phone, causing the cracks and damages. And due to that fact, the liquid particles condense together to form solid particles.
Now, if you look up on the screen, this is our 3-year developmental plan. In the first year, we intend on applying for basic utility and design patents and creating a minimal viable prototype, which would include finding the best possible composition of an STF with the best shock-absorbing qualities and cheapest value. Now, year 2 is all about expansion. First of all, we want to form relationships with phone manufacturing companies, such as Apple and Samsung, in order to receive prototypes of their phones before they are released onto the market. But more importantly, we want to expand our market into other highly valuable technological devices, such as laptops and medical devices. Let's say you're walking and, oops, you drop your favorite medical device. Now you're thinking about all these high costs and the potential malfunctions of the device. And I get it, everybody makes mistakes, but that was one very, very expensive mistake. If our product proves it's worth protecting phones in the first year of business, wouldn't you want it protecting things so valuable such as medical devices, which would not only save thousands of dollars, but also potentially save thousands of lives? Because I definitely would. Here's a look at our 3-year sales projection. We intend on selling cases for around $30, which is actually $5 to $10 less than typical cases such as OtterBox and Spec cases. In the first 3 years of business, our sales will drastically increase, and we'll be able to pay off our initial investments by the end of year 2 with 15,000 cases being produced. Also, it only costs us $10 to produce our cases. Here's a look at our year 1 financials, which total in about $214,000, and we are seeking $250,000 to start up our business.
Safety is key, and we want to keep our valuables safe, so let's start with CellShock.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start with some science questions. So the first one is, so you explained shear thickening and how you get clustering and the material goes from something that flows to something that doesn't. So how does this reduce shock?
Well, think of it in this way. It's not like it's something hard hitting something hard. It's a liquid at first, and the shock is the energy that's being absorbed throughout the liquid. And so on impact, the liquid turns into a solid, absorbing that shock and dispersing it throughout the liquid entirely, causing it to solidify rather than letting it spread throughout the casing. And then after that shock is released and the stress is released, it reverses back into a liquid phase.
Okay. My always goal is to get you to say the things that I wanted you to say in your talk afterwards. Okay, so you gave the example of cornstarch, which is like the most fun shear thickening liquid, but I assume you're not going to use that because like bacteria will eat it and it will rot. So you didn't give any details about possible shear thickening fluids that you would actually employ. So could you tell us something about that?
So there has been research done with STFs composed of colloidal silica particles and ethylene glycol. That was used in body armor using Kevlar, and the STF was embedded in the fibers of that. However, those do have very good shock absorbing qualities. They were able to surpass many ballistic tests, but frankly, those materials are very expensive. There's another STF made with acetone and calcium carbonate, which is cheaper, but the shock absorbing qualities are not as great as the cornstarch in water. So, and there are many other STFs that we would still need to further investigate.
The reason this is important is because you made a cost estimate. And if you don't actually have the compound identified, you can't, that means your cost estimates aren't realistic because that's a big piece of your cost. So that's the key reason you have to identify the specific choice early. Okay, so then the last question is, you made a picture where you sort of said, we'll have a layer of some just elastomer, and then a layer of your shear thickening liquid and a layer of elastomer. You do that, you're going to have some weird blobby cell phone case. So how are you going to do the engineering to make sure that the spatial distribution of shear thickening liquid within your cell phone stays constant, so it's not a funny looking cell phone case?
Well, ideally, we would like to have a very thin layer of the silicone. And so since it will be thin, not much liquid will need to be put in. And therefore, we would fill up the whole entire casing with the liquid. Therefore, like if you were to hold it up and tilt it, like the liquid isn't flowing through, but rather it's completely filled with the liquid inside.
But silicone is soft, and it will deform and let the liquid deform. There's nothing hard in there to make it keep its shape.
We haven't done too much research on the silicone, and we would need to do further testing on that. However, we just know that we just chose the silicone because we needed a soft enough casing for the liquid to feel the impact inside. And silicone is a type of rubber, but it's more durable and it's antibacterial for the fungus growth too.
How did you guys come up with the $10 cost?
So it would only cost us 46 cents to manufacture with, 46 cents is just the materials. And the $10 was an estimate from the factoring in employment and workspace and other in material costs and energy prices.
What type of equipment do you envision requiring to build something like that?
We would typically need a molding device in order to mold the silicone to the desired shape of the phone case.
And silicone is actually a hard material to work with because not much, like silicone can't stick to itself very easily. So we'd have to like get a machine that would be able to melt it in order to mold the actual casing. And therefore, in our labs, we had trouble because we couldn't actually stick the two silicones together. We ended up stapling it together, which it wasn't perfect, but we had to work with.
So something to think about is your yield component of this may end up increasing your fundamental cost because let's say you produce 10, but only 4 of them work out. You'll have to spread the cost across the other 6. It'll spread the other 6 costs that you couldn't actually sell into the 4. Something to think about if it's especially if it's that difficult of a process.
Time for one more question.
I'm recalling, I think I have this right, that your labor costs are $75,000?
Yes.
Okay. How many people are working for this company?
We would only be employing 5 people, and we would be working as well, but we wouldn't take the pay for the first couple of years.
So you're paying, on average, $15,000 to each person? I'm taking $75,000 and dividing by 5 people. That's $15,000.
I mean, people would be working 40 hours a week, and we would be paying them $15 an hour
Okay.
in 1 year.
Okay, so people work, I'm going to round, 2,000 hours a year.
Okay.
It's a little more than that, but and at $15 an hour, that's $30,000
Okay.
times 5 people. So you might want to look at your employment costs again because I think you've perhaps undershot it a bit, perhaps a lot.
I just want to also add that the kind of people who you want in this company do not get paid $15 an hour. And that's good because you're going to go be those people. And that $75,000 won't even pay one person's salary for 1 year. And that's nice because you want to make that kind of money. But the costs are way, way underestimated.
Okay. Well, thank you guys.